Welcome to the Growth Junction, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of Bitcoin, finance, and crypto by speaking with industry leaders who are shaping the future of the space. I'm your host, Dennis. I have been in the 2.5 crypto cycles, definitely felt the anxieties of the highs and lows in my wallets. Before this, I used to work for several marketing agency, one of which being a top Web3 agency. Today, I'm delighted to have with me Mark van Versendaal out of Netherlands. It's always extra exciting to have fellow Bitcoiners on the show. He's one of the innovative minds behind Bitcoin Economics Unseen, or BE Unseen, a Netherlands-based company that's all about empowering individuals and businesses through Bitcoin's economic potential. With lots of experience in sales and marketing, Mark has now turned his strategic expertise toward the world of Bitcoin. He's on a mission to cut through the noise and show how Bitcoin can be a practical, transformative tool for financial freedom. Welcome to the show, Mark. Awesome to have you here. Why don't you take a couple of moments to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Dennis. Very nice to be here, obviously, and a very good and interesting introduction. Always fun to hear that about yourself. So if I would add a couple of words to that, I would say that the most important part for me to share is that since I found Bitcoin somewhere in 2018, I did not actually understand what it was. I was interested in number go up. I had a big Fiat mindset, I suppose. I did not have a low time preference. I was doing all the stuff that I now think of. Why did I do that back then? But ever since then, the journey began, I suppose, and it has changed me on so many levels that it's actually very interesting to talk about that as well in a bit. Perhaps we are going to talk about it, but the main part is that we sold almost everything we had. So we had a few assets. We were investing in a few assets already. I had my own company in sales and marketing, just like you said, and we decided to sell everything that was of any value. And we went to travel the world for 4+ years with my beautiful family. So my wife and my 2 kids, my 2 daughters. And that was, of course, a life-changing event that took about 4 to 4.5 years. And since then, at the same time, simultaneously, I dove deeper and deeper into Bitcoin, of course, because I had more time as well. So those 2 things together actually changed everything.
Awesome. So was there a specific moment, aha moment, where you went okay, Bitcoin is it, time preference and stuff like this?
Yeah. So, of course, I said it in other podcasts as well. Of course, if you, in hindsight, you want to say, or you want to believe that you already knew it from the get-go, right? You believe sometimes because it takes a while before you actually get something that you read. You can read it, rationally understand it, but also embody it and be it is of course another level. So I would say that around when I got into Bitcoin around 2018, I started to read about it a little bit more. I started to put a little bit of capital in it. But again, number go up. I was only interested in number go up. I also went into some other tokens. And of course, I invested in other stuff as well. But I did not have a low time preference because I was still drinking way too much alcohol. To be very honest, I was doing other stuff as well, even though I was already a father of 1 daughter, right? So I was already in that family life, but still I had difficulties of moving away from the old life, like drinking and living from weekend to weekend and all that stuff. And it was not that when I found Bitcoin, it was suddenly over, right? It was still the same. And I got a little bit richer because of Bitcoin, but I was not getting smarter in any way. It was still working my ass off, and in the weekend find some reason to escape the everyday, the average day. And later on, I also joined a spiritual growth movement, and that was an additional step for me to figure out if I was actually creating from the inside out, all the stuff that I was doing to generate revenue. Was I creating from the inside out or from the outside in? Was I doing what everyone told me that I was, or was I doing stuff that I actually felt from the inside? And it turned out I was not doing stuff that I felt from the inside. And at the same time, I got, because I was always a reader, I love reading books. And because I was investing in Bitcoin and the capital went up a little bit, I was more interested in what it then was. And then I, of course, started to read some Bitcoin oriented books, or at least the Bitcoin standard. And during that time, of course, you read about lower your time preference. You start to comprehend some stuff that's in there, and then you start to think about, especially because I was also in that spiritual growth movement, you start to think differently. And that was the moment somewhere in time, like in the beginning of 2020, that we decided to sell everything and move.
Yeah. Awesome. That the Bitcoin standard is really, man, that's changed many, many lives, I think, including mine. I mean, I had no idea of the concept. Those two words together, I didn't know what they meant together. And I barely knew what inflation was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't come from a financially, savvy family or nothing, just workers, and suddenly I'm like finding myself teaching the children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have one awesome block of Lego, and then you have 10,000, like all of them are the same. Which one do you want?
Yeah, but the beauty of this low time preference thing is that you can apply it to almost everything in life. And it's so funny because, of course, you have your blind spots and you have your ego. So, of course, in some parts in your life, you're applying it, right? You're doing it. You are saving some capital, not spend it on bullshit, and just like use it to buy some more Bitcoin or gold or whatever you want. Like you just like you want to create a low time preference, not think about today, but think about your future, yada yada. And later on, then when you talk about it to others, people like actually mirror it to you. For example, my wife, because then when I eat something that's not good for me, like that's actually awful for me, she gives back to me, you have this low time preference, right? So why don't you then choose the right thing to eat, right? Because you still like move away from this principle of low time preference, and you only use it when it's into your own advantage in your own bias world, right? And then later on, so 5 years now into this, like, do I have a low time preference? You start to apply it also on working out. And you realize that all the stuff that you do today is also for a later point in time. And you also actually understand recovery, rest. You start to accept and also love pain because you know you need it in order to grow. All that stuff in all those aspects of life, in love, in social relationships, in your health, in eating healthy, in working out, spiritual growth, it's not one line up, right? It's like literally investing all the time and your energy and your money into stuff that you cannot use that moment in order to create more of it, whatever it is, in the future. And that's a beautiful concept, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes time, as you say, to really get into it. You understand it, but you didn't get yourself into the other routine
Exactly.
either. So
Exactly.
like an addict doesn't become addicted in one day, and he doesn't become unaddicted in one day.
Beautiful. That's
It's
beautiful.
yeah. So hey, but in your business, you're working with businesses also. So what's the biggest hurdle you find in Dutch businesses to for them to buy in, and how do you tackle that?
Yeah, well, the first, of course, is that they don't see Bitcoin as money. They simply aren't there yet. And what I also see is that once you have someone, like for example, the CEO or the founder or someone high in the hierarchy, that really grasps it because you work with this person one-on-one. So privately, they start to buy Bitcoin with relatively large amounts. It depends on where you're coming from, but relatively large amounts. And then they start to like it. They start to get interested, but then they need more time. They need time before they want to integrate it into their business or be the one that says that the business should do it, because they still feel that they can lose a lot of credentials or lose a lot of the track record, the things that they've built within their own company. So that's what I notice, is that once, even if you have the CEO and he is becoming a Bitcoiner, it doesn't mean that the companies are also becomes a Bitcoin company. So that's the challenge I would say that we experience right now. The beauty is that I really don't care, because I just know they just need some more time, and it's just, again, that lower time preference. And since our business is also focused on individuals and individuals that wants to become or stay more sovereign, so we help them as well, and that's the beauty of our community. But since we want to make more impact globally, starting with the Netherlands, yeah, we of course want to do businesses as well, because that's where the capital is. And then we can help shifting or help the speed of this shift that's already going on, of Bitcoin becoming the global reserve asset or a global form of money that's widely being used, whatever we think it's going to be. We of course need companies as well that actually see Bitcoin as a form of money or as a form of store of wealth, whatever definition you use. So yeah, we are not there yet in the Netherlands. We are pretty, we say in Dutch, nuchter, sober, but not sober as in like a prior addict, but someone who like thinks like, no, like everything is like it is. And if Bitcoin moves like something else than what I think money is, then I will not see it as money. I will see it as money whenever it is money. So they are not like that entrepreneurial early adopter kind of mindset. I think we had it in the Netherlands like 30 years, 40 years ago, and probably also, but I wasn't around in the 1700s when we ruled the world. But we've lost it a little bit, and now we seem, especially when we became part of like this AU kind of energy. I miss that entrepreneurial energy and that early adopter energy. So I think we wait for the United States to do it, and then a few years later, the time is ripe for the average Dutch company.
Yeah, for sure. We also have this word in German, nüchtern, in Swedish, nüchter, to be level-headed, don't
Yes.
rush, to
Yes.
calm down, everybody, and
yes.
let's see what
Exactly.
happens.
Like
And
let the Americans check it out and do something stupid with it, and then whenever like the child thingies are out of it, like we say it, like the kinderpijntjes, like the pains that you usually get in an early stage of a company or in the early stage of a new invention, let them figure it out, and then whenever it's ready, we adopt it as well. And of course, we don't have the advantage then, but we don't care because we are sober people, right? Something like it.
Yeah, many people need to see. They probably need to come into a store and see that they could pay with Bitcoin there.
Yeah.
And that adoption will really, I mean, we need more companies facilitating that for, small businesses, big businesses everywhere. So it's normalized. That will stabilize the price and everything.
Yeah, and make no mistake, like the media, of course, is left oriented, so is probably against Bitcoin, and or the ideas they have around Bitcoin. They are against those ideas, whatever. And I'm still surprised of how many people still take the media for truth. And at the same time, I'm also a little bit checking out in alternative media, and even there they do not actually understand Bitcoin, and even there they are more against than pro Bitcoin in the Netherlands. So if I just like see in my echo chamber in Twitter from people all over the world what they already know about Bitcoin, no such thing in the Netherlands. Like there are only small groups of people that actually understand what it is and where it stands for and what it could become and the potential and stuff like that. But to actually talk about it in a positive way, almost never. So that's the challenge. Like Mark can say it, and Mark can like be smart about it and be convincing about it and say stuff that they think, oh, that makes sense. That's rationally makes sense. That rationally is true. And at the same time, then whenever they turn me off and they turn to someone else, they almost always get something negative about Bitcoin. So that's still a thing in the Netherlands.
Right. So when you're working with the companies, you must have seen some people have their aha moments also. What was the most rewarding reaction you've had from one of your clients?
Yeah. So let me think about that, because I had a few. I think I feel the most rewarding reactions, because there were multiple, but I can think of one in particular, is when a financial expert from a company, like a controller and or the CFO, comes to join the conversation, because the CEO is not that financially literate, right? So he thinks, okay, Mark, this is irrational. This is a cool story. I'm also someone that wants to take risk. So perhaps let's do it. But before I do it, I grab my CFO and let's talk with him in the same conversation. And then he, of course, hears about a dude with his own podcast, Mark van Versendaal. What does he know about money? What does he know about finance? Even better. And then they come to the conversation, and I can think of one conversation in particular where he, of course, was like not open-minded at all. But the beauty is, and of course, I had that from my own experience in sales, if someone is not open-minded, you cannot get it open-minded until you have said yes to the person behind it, right? So it's not only about the content anymore, it's about saying yes so that he or she can be seen and be heard. So the whole conversation shifts. Instead of me presenting facts or narratives about Bitcoin or what you could do with it, instead now I just ask him questions. And the beauty of that, of course, is if you are good in asking the right type of questions, is that people say stuff that that you can use later on, not per se against, but against the stance that they have towards Bitcoin. So that always helps, because you can ask particular questions and then they say stuff about money, and they say stuff about a low time preference, and they say stuff about investing, and they say stuff about storing wealth, and all that stuff you can use later on if you then have facts as well, because now he is more open-minded because you asked him questions, and he or she again is now open-minded to, whenever you have asked your questions, to talk a little bit more about the content behind Bitcoin. And then, of course, they still have this bias. Yeah, but no, right? Yeah, but no. And if you then like can use facts that they have used as in something that they were for, and you can use them back, then of course you have this 7 universal basic principles of psychology, like the seven weapons of influence, written by what is his name? It's a famous book, Cialdini, and he wrote this book. And if you read those universal principles, you know that like one of the 7 is people want to be consistent. So if they have shown some consistency, and you can use all that information then back towards them, then you see them changing, because the CEO is next with them, and he cannot hide anymore behind his answers, because he has to admit that all the things that he believes in are also in Bitcoin. And then you see this reversal and you see the shift happening. And if then this person is also able to admit it, say, wow, I never thought of it like that. That is the most rewarding, because then you actually helped someone. And then it's not about me and my ego showing to the CEO, look, I'm right and he's not. No, he admits himself like, hey, this is interesting. This might be something interesting here. And of course, their ego does not allow them to then say, okay, let's do it. But their ego allows them to at least say, well, never thought of this like this before. So yeah, we should talk more often about this stuff, to at least make it a possibility. So those are probably the most rewarding.
Awesome. Yeah, selling, you have a lot of experience in selling. So, I mean, and I'm actually getting into sales at the moment, and it's very, very interesting. And,
Yeah.
I wasn't into marketing. I thought, oh, sleazy salesman and all of this.
Hmm.
It's actually an art. And when you are selling something you believe in can help the person or the company, then that changes everything, because you're not just sell anything to anybody mindset, but you're trying to help. And then it's so much easier, and you're coming there with integrity. So, yeah, it's a very interesting topic for sure. So, in your spiritual journey, how has Bitcoin, or what's the most surprising or unexpected way that Bitcoin has influenced your journey, and how might this resonate with others who are curious but skeptical?
Well, I think the investment company of Jeff Booth is called Ego Death, right? And I was already reading books about ego and the death of the ego. So when I saw this name, I'm not sure when they started this investing entity, but I think that's it. I already before I heard about the name, I've read the book Ego is the Enemy from Ryan Holiday. And when I read that, like every word was written for me personally. That's how it felt. And I think that's what a good book does, right? For everyone in their own experience. And Bitcoin actually helped me to maintain that mindset that it's not about you, right? Of course, you need your ego to make sure that you're safe and to take care of yourself and stuff like it. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do simultaneously taking care of the world or taking care of others. So the fact that I constantly, when I read books about Bitcoin, about that lower time preference, about don't trust, verify, stay humble, stack sets, all those one-liners, they are so easy, especially if you keep in mind that it's not about you, right? It's about like making this world actually a better place. And of course, it's so unique that you can now store your wealth in a medium so that you can become more rich. So it's like egocentric. I become more rich. But at the same time, you help the world into a harder monetary standard, right? Just by sharing with others, not how Bitcoin is better, but simply to be happier. Because that's what Bitcoin allows you to do is you have more time and energy to invest in being a better father, in being a better husband, in being a better friend, in creating more value. And I think that's also very important. Like we talked about sales. Sales is not you selling something. Sales is to make sure to create value for the other person by a conversation. So if you ask questions, you help this person get smarter because a question opens a mind. So if you ask a question and he or she opens his or her mind, you are already creating value right there. And then, of course, this person understands, wait, there's more. So they see some type of dream outcome in their heads. And if then your service or your product helps them to get to that dream outcome, you're actually a good salesman. That's what sales is all about. Then you create this value for the other person, but you have created value, but you have not received anything in return. And therefore, we, of course, use money. So sales and Bitcoin, in my opinion, you can correlate the two by like, okay, first I create value, then I store value. I create value, then I store value. But creating value is not about you, just like a salesperson thinks I want to sell. No, you want to create value for the other person. So there's no ego there. You just ask questions. You don't pitch anything. You don't teach anyone. You just ask questions so that they feel that value starting to get there. That's what I think it is. So it makes sense to me then if you then like relate it back to Bitcoin. So you've created this value and now you store that value in a medium of exchange that gives you more time and energy to spend on the things you actually should be doing as a human being. And whilst you do that, you also help others to get there as well because the Bitcoin network grows stronger. Everyone now, or people now, get more convinced that it actually helps. They see someone being happier, genuinely happier, while being on a Bitcoin standard, and so on, so on, so on. And then, yes, okay, there's still ego involved. But the fact that it's not only about you while making the world a better place, that's something that Bitcoin, like, to me, it's like some type of referee. Whenever I'm too much into my own ego and my own bubble, it helps me, wait, I'm a Bitcoiner. So I should also think about other stuff and not only about what I want. So, and still I have challenges. So don't take this the wrong way because I still have lots of challenges and I still am too much in my head more often than not. And I have all the same challenges as everyone else. But the fact that Bitcoin is around the corner can help you like switch back outside the fiat matrix and back into the world, the spiritual world where I think we should live more often.
Awesome. That's you know that old saying, I don't know if it was Greek or it's planting seeds for trees in which shadow you will never be able to sit. It's
Yes.
I mean, by orange pilling, you are planting many seeds for many trees, and you will never know what to.
Dude, I get goosebumps. This is
It's,
beautiful. That's it. That's it for the. But perhaps we are all saving in Bitcoin, and we don't see what it actually becomes because, like, we are then already too old. So perhaps, like, we have this Bitcoin standard 80 years from now, and I'm not living anymore to actually experience it. But the whole world is on a higher standard of happiness, true wealth, I would say, and that yeah, that would be awesome. And if that means that I cannot like experience that myself, I don't care. I just believe in the mission, in the vision of that Bitcoin creates. So
Yeah,
good point. Good point.
awesome, awesome. So, what trends do you see in the landscape right now, and is it making it harder or easier for you to operate?
Um, as a business, you mean, or as a person living on a Bitcoin standard?
Mainly as a business.
Yeah, yeah. So I see that it becomes harder to be an entrepreneur in the Netherlands, and it becomes harder to, for example, store wealth as a business in Bitcoin. We have multiple banks or bank accounts that were frozen after they transferred money into Bitcoin. So mostly, the best way to do this is by not sending euros to Strike or to whatever Bitcoin company. It's probably better to send your invoice and let your customers pay in Bitcoin if they like it. But of course, lots of industries and companies do not have customers that already want to pay with Bitcoin. For me, it's easier because it's like the company name is Bitcoin Economics Unseen, so we attract entrepreneurs that already know a little bit about Bitcoin or get motivated to learn more about Bitcoin and then also want to do a transaction in Bitcoin, so want to send the invoice in Bitcoin. So it with to that regard, it becomes easier because Bitcoin becomes a global brand more and more. So in that sense, it becomes easier to find customers that also want to invest in Bitcoin and therefore want to pay in Bitcoin, whatever. But to do this like B2B, what we are trying to do as well, that does not become easier in this point in time. And I hope that whatever is happening now in the United States will eventually come to Europe, and that we start to not find extra rules and regulation, but to deregulate a little bit more so that entrepreneurs can breathe again and can create, like I said, what we just talked about. We need this inspiration and this energy to create more value. And if the rules and regulations prevent you from doing that in a way that the market actually wants the things that you are creating, then we have problems because those creators, those those entrepreneurs, they go elsewhere, and then you stick around with the ones that don't want to create at all, that they are the ones that are still into the fiat mindset and the matrix and blah blah blah. And then it will become harder and harder, I guess, because there is less value to share, and that's what Europe tries to do, like grab some value here and share with the rest, and it's all good and all, but you need those creators to actually keep doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And how does the competitive landscape look for you? Do you even consider it to be a competition or more of a collaboration?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know I don't consider it as a competition. I would say there. So I have lots of faith in myself. So I'm of the belief that you are a unique person, right? You are one in 8 billion people. So that means that whatever I do, if I do it from my own heart, it's by definition unique, and by definition I have no competition. So that's how I believe this. So if I see more entrepreneurs starting Bitcoin centered companies, I'm happy. I'm happy because the global mission is, of course, to get the whole world on a Bitcoin standard, or at least partially on a Bitcoin standard. So that's the mission. So the more people, the better. And if they then attract customers from me, or we are in a quote unquote competition to get a company into like, man, I don't believe that way. I simply believe that the customers choose the ones that they feel most attracted to, and mostly it's a subconscious decision, right? So if I'm being me by creating from the heart and by showing my true colors all the time, I simply get the customers I deserve anyways. They will choose for me because we have this heart-to-heart connection. And if someone else get that customer, then this person should be with that person. That's the whole point. So no, there's not there's no competition to that regard. But if you say like, how is it like more in in a concrete way? There are not that many Bitcoin focused or Bitcoin centered entrepreneurs in the Netherlands. So of course you meet Bitcoiners and you meet podcasters and you meet the ones that also already understand Bitcoin, but they are not actually like into that with their whole lives and with all their energy and all their time. They are still like stuck in that fiat system with at least one leg and most of the time a little bit more. So hopefully it becomes more competitive because that means that Bitcoin is winning.
For sure. Awesome. Awesome attitude. So, what are your business goals then for the next, say, 6, 12, and even 36 months?
Of course, like growth is where we live for, right? Even if you don't quote unquote care about money, which I do care about money, but even if you don't care about money, you still care about growing, at least as an individual, but as a business, you have to grow as well because that we want to keep moving. So if I talk about my own business, I would definitely want to at least like next year 100 companies, help them onboard to Bitcoin, like actually set up wallets and store some of the company wealth in the form of a treasury asset in Bitcoin. That would be awesome because we have not made that number yet. And with regard to our own community, where all the entrepreneurs are, I think we could easily grow to like let's say 1,000 members instead of 200 members. So there is lots of room to grow there, I would say. And that would be awesome because the point is, of course, with more members, you can arrange more stuff. Because for what I do, creating content, writing reports, creating video content, arranging a barbecue or whatever, it don't cost me a lot of extra time if we have extra members, right? It's pretty scalable. So that means that if more people would know about us and we grow in numbers, we have more capital to reinvest in the community and we can do basically super cool stuff with them. And that will probably help because then instead of only do it in digital, you can do it more in a physical sense. So we have that true connection by arranging some event somewhere. And we can talk about stuff that actually matters because now we talk about money and about Bitcoin and about how the financial system works. So it's Bitcoin and financial education, but that's only one part. If you understand how to store your wealth in an asset that respects your time and energy like Bitcoin, then of course you eventually have more time and energy to put in other stuff. And that's where we should talk about what are we going to do with our lives? Like what is making us really happy and what does not. And if we then like be in a community or be with others that are further down the line or longer into that journey, we can already learn from each other simply by talking to each other or by do some type of activity. And that would be awesome to do that globally, like that we have multiple events all around the world where multiple people come together and already have that extra time and energy, aren't stressed out because of the fiat system, and are now thinking, okay, but what then? What is that next level in that Maslow pyramid? And there's always a next level. So that's basically what I would want.
Awesome, awesome. That's a great goal. So if you had one, if you had the magic wand, what would need to happen, or what would need to be solved to be able to reach that, do you think?
Yeah, I think it will definitely help that we will not get a type of recession in which Bitcoin does not perform well. So if the economic indicators that we see right now are pointing towards some type of mistrust in the financial system, which I of course can agree to, because that means that they don't trust the government bonds and the treasuries as a global reserve asset anymore, which is a good thing, by the way, because that means that they want something harder, something that they can trust. And of course we think about Bitcoin then, but what we now see is that the market doesn't seem ready yet at this point in time to then adopt that as a replacement. most of the capital goes into gold. So what would help is that Bitcoin keeps performing well, because that helps to attract new people. And of course, then we can grow more easy, because then we have more members and we have more business that are also interested in Bitcoin. And then we can arrange those events for whenever the Bitcoin price collapses temporarily, to make sure that they understand what it is, and that they, at the same time, even though they are not living on a Bitcoin standard yet as a company or as an individual, that they can already start to do the stuff that actually make them happen. Because I'm a big believer in acting as if it already happened. So that means that if you act as if Bitcoin is already 1 million per token, for example, you're already a millionaire, for example, and then you can already spend time on your kids more, and in social relations, and whatever you want to achieve. So that would help. It would help that people wake up. And of course, I woke up because Bitcoin went up, so I believe that would help. So that's, of course, that's very helpful. At the same time, I just hope that if this monetary reset that currently seems to be going on, that we have as little as victims as possible, so that people have time to adapt, to grab some capital, to store it in other assets, so that they are not like victim of whatever stuff could go wrong if we get some type of deflationary spiral or something weird that could happen. It's not my base case, but since you asked me like what would be awesome, I think it would be awesome that we have a little bit more time, so that the Federal Reserve starts printing money again, do a little bit of quantitative easing, so that the assets could go up a little bit further. That means that we have more time to convince people. At the same time, we know that people only go into action if there's any type of necessity. So perhaps we need some more urgency by some type of event, that people finally wake up that they need to do something different. COVID was one of those events. We probably need one more or two more before the majority of people will be there to move with this global consciousness shift that I think is going on right now.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about how many cycles there will still be before it actually starts stabilizing. So, but there's probably a couple of more coming. So, but
we cannot deny that human psychology is a real thing, and we can of course believe the institutions are here and diminishing returns. But whenever Bitcoin goes into this new price discovery phase and we go up really fast, like everyone is going to take on leverage to buy more Bitcoin. Companies are going to do the same. They're going to borrow money to buy more Bitcoin, and of course, like it only makes sense to me that we are still human, so we are still going to play this wrong, and then we still have some type of collapse. The only question is from what price range. We don't know. So as a Bitcoiner, you just want to like store as much value as you have right now in Bitcoin and like see whatever happens, and then we have to wait and see. But I think some events still is going to happen relatively soon to give that final push for the majority to change their lives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for this insightful conversation. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Please tell people where they can find you, be unseen, and so on.
Of course. Well, I'm really active on LinkedIn, because I believe that there's like information asymmetry there in comparison to X, Twitter. So I'm more active on LinkedIn, so you can really find me there. My name, of course, you can just type in my name and you will probably find me, because I post a lot. So send me a DM there or whatever if you've listened to this podcast, and we can have a little chat. And the website is Be Unseen. So BE. Then what's the word, like a
Dash?
yes, like a small a min in Dutch we say min, but it's like a I don't know what the word is, but perhaps it's that.
Yeah.
But it's like so it's beunseen.io. We have a website there. You can read more about Bitcoin economics unseen, and you can also find me on X, of course. Just type in my name and you will find me.
Awesome. Yeah, all the links will be, of course, below the video and be shared on the Twitter post also. So,
perfect.
All right. If you received any value from this episode, please, you know the deal, like it and share it. And if hope to see you in the next episode, and see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye bye.